It's about giving parents and teachers a reason, a legal reason, to say to the teenagers, to say to the children, no, you can't use Facebook, you can't use social media. And we're a country which has done this kind of policy before. We've done it with cigarettes, we've done it with alcohol labelling, and this is really, from that context, the next step. She does have friends who go on to platforms like Roblox and Minecraft and so forth. And look, there will be platforms which are specifically designed for children and are allowed, and they will be used and they will be safe.
Joining me on Global Pulse tonight is Michael Feller. He's a former diplomat and chief strategist at the think tank Geopolitical Strategy. He's also editor of Geopolitical Dispatch, and he joins us live from Melbourne in Australia. Michael Feller, a warm welcome to Global Pulse. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let me begin by asking you, this measure that Australia has taken is bold and it's unprecedented. It's never happened before, and I can tell you the entire world is watching very, very closely. Why do you believe the government of Australia felt the need to take such a drastic measure to impose an altogether ban on social media for everyone under the age of 16? And how do you think the government is really going to make this ban work on the ground?
Yes, so you're correct. It is a bold move. It's unprecedented. And I think the government has gone in without really a clear idea about how it would work. But what this is about is not so much technologically blocking access to social media sites. It's about giving parents and teachers a reason, a legal reason, to say to the teenagers, to say to the children, no, you can't use Facebook, you can't use social media. And we're a country which has done this kind of policy before. We've done it with cigarettes, we've done it with alcohol labelling, and this is really, from that context, the next step. Some may decry it as a nanny state move, but it has bipartisan support. It's one of the most popular policies that Australia has introduced in recent years. And we expect that there will be pushback, but politically, it's a brilliant move. Anybody with children supports this measure.
Anybody with children supports this measure. As you said, there is already pushback with many teens and child rights advocacy groups also saying that what the government is doing essentially is to suppress the voice of the young. How would you respond to that?
So it's not suppressing the voice of the young, it's young people who are 16 and older can still use social media, but it's looking at this from a public health perspective, just as like we looked at cigarettes for young people as well. And the evidence is fairly clear, and it's, surveys, mental health assessments. It shows people are addicted to these things. Social media has been designed with the express intent to make it addictive. I'm an adult, you're an adult, we're probably both addicted to social media. How do you think somebody who is 15, whose brain hasn't developed, is going to be able to handle with it? So yes, this is a very bold move, but it's a move that other countries are already looking at. The European Union, Denmark, Malaysia, Brazil, amongst others, have made express interest. And Rahm Emanuel, who is a Democrat contender for the 2028 US presidential election, has also suggested that this might be something that his party takes to the election.
All right. Politically, you think this is a popular move, but let me ask you this, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. There are those who are warning that enforcement of such a ban could prove to be very tricky. And, at the very least, we can expect it to be patchy because there are chances that underage users could slip through, while legitimate users over the age of 16 may actually get unfairly and wrongly logged out, especially if these social media platforms end up using AI to make the segregation. How do you think the government is going to address these concerns?
Look, there will be gaps And just as like the example of cigarettes before, you can still get cigarettes if you're really motivated to get cigarettes. But a ban is a big dissuasion device. And this isn't so much about a 15-year-old who will probably find their way to social media by hook or by crook if they so intend. But this is more about parents being able to say to their children, no, I'm not buying you an iPhone for Christmas. No, just because your friends are on social media doesn't mean you're going to be on social media. It's that kind of thing. It's being able to give schools and parents control again over children's media habits, because over the last 5, 10 years, things have been getting out of control, not just in Australia, across the world. Any of your viewers with children will understand this. I have children. I understand this. They're still very young, but these are addictive products, and these are products which, kids want, and having a legal justification to say to your children, no, you can't go online. And also, making the network effects weaker, having less people online, it just becomes less attractive to be online. And look, we'll see if it works. Again, as you said, this is unprecedented. Social media is fairly new, but we're grappling with this as a society. And without being, speaking on behalf of the Australian government, I commend them for having a go at this. And certainly, I think a lot of other governments are looking at this with keen interest.
You know, you're actually quite right in pointing out that social media use and its impact on young people, perhaps in many ways, has gone out of control. I personally think this is a bold and a great move, too. I mean, just recently, we all saw that much talked about Netflix series Adolescence. And
Yeah.
not only was it dark and disturbing, many saw it as a wake up call. But there are those who say that while this law is well intentioned because it's designed to protect children and safeguard their mental health, could it in some ways make them more vulnerable by pushing them to unregulated or less secure platforms, as they try and circumvent this ban?
Look, it's a legitimate argument. It's the prohibition argument. When you ban alcohol, people will find other drugs, etc. But in the case of social media, it works when there's lots of people online. It works when your friends are online. And if your friends are not online because their parents, their schools are also empowered to say, no, you can't be online, you can't have these social media apps on your phone, then it just becomes less of a thing. It becomes less of a desirable thing. It becomes less peer pressure to open that Instagram account, to open that Facebook or that Snapchat account. So, it's something that we'll only know the real sense of in a few years, probably. Already people are writing the obituary over this policy, but it's been less than 24 hours, and we need to give it some time. There will be kids who find a way to get back onto different platforms. But again, I don't think this is so much about older teenagers who have the wherewithal and have the time and interest to do that. This is about, saying to your 8-year-old, saying to your 10-year-old, no, you're not on Facebook. No, you're not on Snapchat. No, you're not on Instagram. And, we've all seen the studies. It does have deleterious mental health effects. It is designed to be addictive. And, whether it's body image issues, whether it's cyberbullying, whether it's, you gave that example of the Netflix drama, online radicalization, all roads lead to Silicon Valley here. And I commend the Australian government for standing up to a force that people didn't think could be stood up to.
Again, I'm only playing the devil's advocate here. What would you say to those who say that, social media can also be a great tool for learning and digital literacy, and banning it outright could actually undermine the ability of under 16-year-olds to develop these skills that today's world demands? You said you have children. Have you had a conversation around this at home? I wonder what your kids had to say about this ban.
Yeah, yeah. Well, my children are 3 and 6, so a little bit too
Okay,
young to
too
really
young.
understand. However, already the 6-year-old, she does have friends who go on to platforms like Roblox and Minecraft and so forth. And look, there will be platforms which are specifically designed for children and are allowed, and they will be used and they will be safe. But I tell you what, Roblox, for instance, has terrible security features, and there has been documented cases of pedophiles using that to groom children. And I just think, frankly, these companies have had years to get their act in order, but a draconian, and the Australian government has taken, you know, the interests of these companies quite seriously, I think, and this is why it's been debated for years. This isn't an overnight. But enforced, and as such, I think it's only natural that we're now seeing this measure. And I dare say by this time next year there'll be several more countries, probably beginning in Europe, but going beyond that, who will also introduce similar legislation.
All right. Now, as of the 10th of December, this ban has come into force. We'll have to wait and see how this works on the ground, how effective it is, and whether those, loopholes that we talked about can in fact be plugged by government agencies. But do you, at this point in time, see any resistance from social media platforms? Do you foresee legal challenges, for instance, to this ban from some of these
Yeah,
companies?
that is definitely something that I'm watching, and it's definitely something the Australian government will be anticipating, particularly from very outspoken social media barons like Elon Musk. We saw in recent days the reaction to a European Union fine on his social media platform for disinformation, and I can only imagine that in due course he will be making similar noises, obviously very connected to the Trump administration. The Trump administration is connected in many other ways to these large social media firms. Meta, for instance, Mark Zuckerberg is a donor to Trump's White House ballroom. I dare say people are going to be picking up the phone, and not just because they want to punish Australia. Want Australia to be an example for other countries, because they don't want India to introduce this policy. They don't want the European Union to introduce this policy. And most of all, they don't want the United States to introduce this policy. And there are a lot of American parents who are watching this and will be calling their congressmen and congresswomen and asking, why don't we have a similar bill in our system?
Absolutely. So the cascading effect that this could possibly have would be worrying for these social media giants. And you're quite right. This is a measure that is going to start a debate all around the world. I'm sure that's going to happen here in India as well. Do we need to consider a similar ban for, young and vulnerable minds? That debate certainly has started. Now, whether Australia proves to be a pioneer in this area or a cautionary tale, I guess time will tell. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Michael Feller. Thank you so much for joining me on Global Pulse.
Absolute pleasure anytime. Thank you.